On paper where the story's told, facts and truth, the legend grows. Lionheart's here with fire to spit. It's on paper with Anthony Smith.
With Anthony Smith.
Welcome back to On Paper. I'm Kelly Murphy. More importantly, that is my co-host, my better half, UFC light heavyweight for not much longer, and the ultimate girl dad himself, Anthony Lionheart Smith. Anthony, how you doing?
Kelly,
No,
I'm okay. I don't know where to start. Generally, I'm okay. I'm sore.
Okay.
I'm tired. Fucking old. And just been training my ass off. Crazy, but yeah, I'm okay. I'm having a goddamn ordeal here in Denver. I'm having a goddamn ordeal.
All right. Let's hear
You know what?
about it.
I'm gonna vent. So if you guys don't want to, you don't want to listen to it, you can fast forward past this part. But so I have this car. So I'm not like a car person, but I'm kind of a car person.
I was gonna say, I feel like you are a car person.
A little bit of a car. Anyway, so I got one of my cars here. It's a newer Tahoe, right? It's got like 20,000 miles on it, right? It's a high country. It's got the chocolate brown leather. It's fucking sweet. It's so nice. It's lifted, wheels and tires. It's pretty. It's really pretty. Blacked out windows. It's beautiful. So on Thursday, I have to fly from here in Denver to Miami to work the show. I'm going to fly in Thursday. I'm going to train with Dean. I'm going to work the death. It's great. I got this whole weekend planned. I come back here after practice, get my shit all together, get my stuff packed, get my suits all ready to go. Load up my Tahoe with my bags, and I get on. For anyone that doesn't know anything about Denver, the goddamn airport is like, feels like it's half a state away from anywhere in Denver. Like no matter where you're at, it takes you 40 minutes, 50 minutes to get to the airport. It's nowhere close to Denver. So it's a pain in the ass. So I get on I-70 and I'm flying down and my car starts making this weird noise. Again, like it's pretty new. It's got 20,000 miles on it. So, but I'm in a hurry because I have to get to the airport. So I'm like, fuck it. Like I'll drop it off at the dealership when I get back on Monday on my way to the gym, and I'll just Uber or whatever. And then it just gets louder and louder. But I'm in like rush hour traffic on I-70. It's like 8 lanes wide. Like there's nowhere to really stop.
I didn't know there was rush hour in Denver.
Traffic in Denver is one of the worst places in the entire country.
Oh, stop. I live in New York. I don't want to hear it.
I'm not joking. It's really, really bad. Like sometimes it could take you 15 minutes to get somewhere, and sometimes it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's awful. So I'm in traffic, and my car's making this noise, and then it just starts like puttering, and like the RPMs are jacking high, and I'm not going anywhere, and like it's terrible. So I end up getting my car like to the second, like the farthest left 2 lanes. Like I'm working my way to the left because I can't go to the right because there's like the airport exit and then there's like 3 other exits, right? There's a billion fucking cars there. I can't make it. So I get off, I cut people off in the HOV lane, and then my car dies. Like it just shuts off. And so I roll into like the shoulder where my car barely fits. Every car,
big ass Tahoe.
It's a big jacked up lifted Tahoe, and it barely fits in the shoulder. Every car that drives by me is in the HOV lane, which is pretty much like the Autobahn in Denver. If you're in the HOV lane, you're doing Mach fucking 400. And so my car is like shaking every car that drives by because we're missing our mirrors by like inches. And now I'm stuck because it won't start. It's like, it smells funny. Like I think the transmission's out. Like it's not great. But I still have to get to the airport. So I call an Uber from the side of the interstate, and I just leave my car. Like I convinced this guy because he tells me he doesn't want to.
That's like literally half in the shoulder, half in the HOV lane. Everyone's gotta fucking hate you.
Oh, for sure. So I just leave it. I convinced the Uber driver, like, because he doesn't want to pick me up there because he's in like a Yukon Denali, and he doesn't want to stop there because he doesn't want to sit there.
2 big fucks.
Right. 2 idiots.
Making more traffic.
For sure. And this goddamn gangster, he just pulls in the HOV lane, like sideways kind of, and just turns his flashers on. He was like, Mr. Smith. He just comes and gets me. So anyways, I put the key in the gas door and I just dip. And from that spot, I had about 20 minutes left to the airport. And so then I call a tow truck driver, and then he comes and gets it. I call the dealership that's closest and make an appointment. Like, hey, they're going to drop it off in like 30 minutes. Car gets there totally fine. I don't think another thing of it. Friday morning, I call. saying, hey, did you guys get a chance to look at it? What's going on? He goes, we can't find it. What do you mean you can't find it? I don't know. We've walked the lot 3 times and the driver said that it's here, but we can't find your car. And I said, well, I promise you no one stole it because it won't fucking move. It won't start. Like it's undrivable. So they spend all day on Friday trying to find my car. Then they finally find it. It's around the corner at the same dealership around the corner has like a body shop. For whatever reason, they had them put it in the back of the body shop. So then they find it, but it's 5 o'clock in the evening. It's like closing time, whatever. So I call him this morning. Hey, you guys get a chance to look at it? What are we looking at here? He goes, we can't find the key. What do you mean you can't find the fucking key? They're like, yeah, the receptionist is saying that they just left the car and there's no key. So all day we've been trying to figure out what the hell's, because they can't do anything with it. They've towed it from the wrong spot back to the right spot. So now it's where it's supposed to be, but there's no key. So they can't even diagnose it because there's no key. So I've been losing my mind. I'm like, you guys lost my fucking car, and now you lost the goddamn key. They blamed it on the towing company, so I'm chewing the towing company's ass. Then the driver that picked my car up drove across Denver because he's getting his ass chewed because the dealership is saying he never dropped it off.
Right.
So now he's getting his ass chewed by his boss because now they have to pay like $800 or $900 for a new key because that's what it costs to get rekeyed and the fob and all that stuff. So
for sure,
he drives across town, and of course walks into the body shop, tells the lady, I gave you the goddamn key on Thursday. And she goes, oh, it's right here. And so they found, I've been losing my shit today. I've been losing my shit. If they hadn't found it, by the time I came on this podcast, I'd be just ripping their name, address, locations. I'd be fucking mad. Oh, I was pissed.
So is it done? Like you got back to Denver this morning?
This morning, yeah.
What's the latest with the car?
They found it 10 minutes before I came on here. The key. So we wasted Thursday afternoon, all of Friday because they lost the car, all of Saturday because they couldn't get it towed over the weekend to the correct location, all of Monday because that's 4 days that they've had the car and they keep losing shit. Anyways, that's my 6-minute rant that I just went on about my car. And I'm supposed to, I'm here. Okay. I have this apartment in Denver that I've had for a long time, but I'm not going to need it anymore. This is my last week in Denver. So I'm supposed to pack up my car with all my shit in this apartment that I want to take with me to drive home, to drive the 8 hours back to Omaha and kind of be done with Denver. Never again. Don't got to do this shit anymore. And I don't have a car. So if it is.
Well, yeah. What do you think? How long do you think this is going to take?
Well, if it's the transmission, it sounds like it's going to be months because they're on back order through Chevy, I guess. So that if it's the transmission, like I suspected it is, yeah, my car's just going to be here in Denver for a couple months, and I'm going to have to fly back here and drive it home in a few months, I guess.
That fucking sucks.
Oh, it sucks big time. Yeah.
Okay, but you get to Miami. Beautiful.
Yes.
How was the weekend? You did a lot of desk work. I saw you on the TV.
Yeah, I worked my ass off. I trained with Dean, which was kind of the highlight of my weekend, if I'm being honest. I love Dean Thomas.
He's the best.
I love everything about him.
Me too.
I love his mind for the sport, and he's good for me in terms of just training. He's just good for me. He's good for my confidence. He's good for just kind of where I need to be going into a fight. So that was great. Weather was good. I had a couple good meals. Got to hang out with Hudson from Comfort. One night he gave me a ride home in his Lamborghini, which was pretty dope.
Amazing.
Back to the hotel. Yeah, I was like a little kid in a candy store. Generally it was really good. The fights were good, but I was ready to get home. I'd only been home one overnight in 3 weeks. So I was excited to get home and get out of Miami. Cause I was I've seen my family, I was in California at Disney. I was in Minneapolis at my kids' volleyball tournament. So I've seen them, but I haven't been home and actually hung out at my house in a while.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah. So I was able to sleep in my own bed. I got my cold plunge all swapped out with the new one, and it was good. I had a good afternoon and night at home with the fam, and here we are back here in Denver. This is our last episode from Denver, from the old apartment that's got nothing on the walls and no decorations, and yeah, I'm excited.
I also have nothing on the walls, and I'm in my home I've lived in for 27 years. So
that's okay. That's all right.
To each their own.
What do you think of the fights?
They were great. I mean, on paper, no pun intended, it was certainly the best pay-per-view of the year thus far,
Mhm.
and I think it delivered on all fronts, starting from the press conference. Once I saw that and the craziness between Yair and Diego and just the way the crowd was reacting to Bryce, and Alexander Volkanovski is one of my top 3 favorite fighters, so I'm always really excited to watch him fight.
Mhm.
I knew it was gonna be a great weekend, and the fights delivered. We're about to have Jon Anik on to talk about it. There's quite literally nobody better. He's the voice of the UFC. He was right there cage side. Lives in Florida, so didn't have a long commute by any means. So I'm excited to hear you guys go back and forth because you're both just have incredible minds for the sport, and it should be a really good conversation.
Yeah, I always look forward to my conversations with John. He's just such an educated guy. He's such a professional. He's so good at his job. And he's helped me out a lot just in terms of my own broadcast voice and my own approach and just the little tips and tricks. He'll catch a fight night that he's not working. He'll say, "Hey, this was great. More of this, less of that." Like he just does such a good job. And I don't know. I really value that guy's friendship. So I'm excited to have him on here. Um, what was your, if you could, I don't know, you could just pinpoint a moment or like a standout, I don't know, maybe standout performance or like what stood out to you other than of course Volkanovski is always going to stand out to you. I know that's your favorite fighter, but
Well,
or
not my favorite. It's not
one
just
of
me.
it's not Justin Gaethje, I guess, but one of your
Please.
favorites. Other than the main event, what is there anything that stood out? Maybe even something from the prelims.
I mean, it's not from the prelims. It is the co-main event, and that's Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
I was so beyond impressed with him. It was like
The
he
whole
has no
gym was
losses,
the
and
whole gym was doing it today. Every single guy in the gym in our warm up was
but how
doing the
could you
Paddy
not?
Pimblett dance. It was crazy.
How could you not? It was such an impressive performance, and he has no losses in the UFC, but it just seems like every time he goes out there, he fights a better guy. And I thought Michael Chandler was going to win this fight, and it was just all Paddy Pimblett start to finish. And I was so beyond impressed with him. Like, I continue to doubt this man, and he makes me look like an idiot every single time. And I'm honestly happy about it.
Yeah, there's no more doubting Paddy Pimblett. I don't know that I'll willing to pick against him in the foreseeable future. That's for sure.
I probably still will,
Yeah, I mean
but
maybe
he looked
like
damn
a fight
good.
with Islam. That's a one that I'd probably lean towards Islam. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know who I would put him as an underdog against right now.
Now we bring in the voice of the UFC, and in my humble opinion, the best commentator in all of professional sports, Mr. Jon Anik. John, how are you doing after a hell of a UFC 314 card?
Well, that's very nice of you to say. I'm doing great. And I did hear what you guys were saying a little bit in the back in terms of like the other big story in MMA. And you're wise to suggest that this pay-per-view is so big that it's hard to sort of land on anything else conversationally. But it's great to be with you guys and be on paper. I put everything on paper. I write out everything. So it's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, I was thinking, Kelly and I have been talking about having you on for a long time. So I've been thinking all day, like, God damn, if I have him on, like, there's got to be other stuff that like people want to hear, Jon Anik's opinion on. But honestly, I think going into this weekend, it was the biggest pay-per-view of the entire year, in my opinion. And I think that afterwards, I think that holds up. I think we say that a lot. And then sometimes it does, the performances or the fights don't necessarily pan out the way that we think they were going to. But I think it's still the biggest pay-per-view of the year. So I feel like we're going to be pretty UFC 314 heavy.
So people want me on my show to ask Ray Longo questions like, would you rather find a rat in your kitchen or a roach in your bed? Right? Like that's what they want me to ask him. But today I promised him I wouldn't ask him questions like that because of the magnitude of this pay-per-view. So yeah, man, it's really interesting how sort of the UFC ends up in certain places, and money has a lot to do with it. We went to Salt Lake City 3 successive years, as you know, but these shows in Miami, right? I'm getting asked, why are they stacking the card to such an extent back to back to back years in Miami, Florida? And that I have no idea, but it's amazing. This was sort of a celebration and I think an embarrassment of riches. And yeah, man, we were trying to figure out what is exactly the big story. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of them. Paddy Pimblett, I think, upstaged Jean Silva by a little bit, and then Volk kind of produced for me maybe his best win. So yes, overflowing with joy, I think, for MMA fans after what we saw this weekend.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Why do we find these? I wouldn't say that. I guess I wouldn't say that Miami's a random city, but we end up finding these cities that kind of pop up out of nowhere. Like Salt Lake City is turned into one of my favorite places to go. And I never
Yeah.
thought that would be something I would say. Some of it's the fights, but the culture's good. The food is good.
Yep.
It's a fight city. And Miami's kind of doing the same thing. And I don't have an answer either why it's become like that, because there's so many other things to do in Miami. I think that's what, like when I go to Vegas all the time, my oldest daughter plays volleyball. And so professional volleyball has really taken off in Omaha. It's this huge thing. But the same league has a team in Vegas that no one seems to give a shit about, because there's so many other things to do in Vegas that the fights kind of, unless it's a blockbuster card, no one seems to really give a shit for the most part. It doesn't turn any heads. But there's so much to do in Miami, and the UFC is still taking over. It's a fascinating thing to me.
I'm on record as saying, like, if you want LeBron James when he was playing for the Miami Heat to come sit octagon side, you got to get Anderson Silva in there. And it never happened for whatever reason. We went to Hollywood, Florida in 2015, and I think Steve Bossy got his head kicked off, if I'm not mistaken. But we didn't go to Miami, as you know, from 2003 to 2023. And certainly I think money moves the needle in terms of getting us there, right? But to load up to this extent, bro, right? It's like I'm taking deep breaths, man. It's like one major fight after the next. And I found myself really just having to, focus and recompartmentalize after what Paddy Pimblett did to call, a 25-minute championship fight, because that was just insane.
Yeah, that's got to be impossible to get ready for. John, I kind of wanted to just start at the bottom of the main card and then just work our way up, because there's so many storylines kind of to each one. Obviously, some of them have more meat on the bone than the others. But if we're starting with Dominic Reyes and Nikita Krylov, which I thought was going to be like, it'll happen. It's a couple big guys, and it'll probably end in a finish. But I suspect that that's where it's going to end, and then we'll just move on. It's a great spot to put that on the card, because it's likely to be a finish. But Dominic Reyes is really fascinating me right now. To go on and do what he did, I think with a much smaller skill set, excuse me, than he possesses right now. And then go in and take John Jones all the way to the limit, in a lot of people's eyes, win that fight. And then go on a long skid to really look like he was absolutely cashed. I mean, I honestly, I used to make fun of him when we would speak about him and say, "Oh, that's not Dominic Reyes. That's the ghost of Dominic Reyes. That's who he. That's just the body that used to be. That looks like what Dominic Reyes used to be."
Yeah.
And it's not the case anymore. He seems to be back. I think he's better than he was before he fought John, if I'm being honest. And being in there with him, he's a serious goddamn problem. I don't know what the storyline there is, but just I guess your general thoughts are kind of what we're seeing here. And before you answer, I think it's so weird that after he wins, Rogan, one of the first questions is to say, "Oh, you're back." Like, God damn it, guys. He's 3 in a row. It's not like he just turned it around yesterday.
Well, and you said better, and I really do believe he's better, right? And if you would have told me that I would be talking about Dominic Reyes becoming a world champion in 2025 a few years ago, it just wouldn't have been a conversation point. And not only a losing streak that has been leaned into by talking heads, of course, like myself, right? But concussive nature of his losing streak, I think, was why it was such cause for concern. But I don't have to tell you, number 24 in your program, Stony Brook University, defensive back, American football, the guy will kill you if you're coming over the middle. Can you imagine this guy? He's a monster physically, right? An absolute monster. The commission talks about him when he weighs in almost every time, right? So there's something there. He definitely has a professional athlete body. He is definitely a plus athlete. And to your point, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. And he's done, I think, the right maintenance, and that includes the mental. And it's just good to see him smile. He's one of these kids who grew up, idolizing Kobe Bryant and that Mamba mentality. And it's a real thing. It dates back to high school for him. And I couldn't be happier for him. I met his parents, when he knocked out Joachim Christensen in his UFC debut in Oklahoma City in 2017. And they're there at the fucking weigh-in this weekend. This is what it's about, man. It's what it's about. And, what I love too, and I'm not trying to be long winded, but, he's asking for Alexander Rakic and Yuri Prochazka and all these tough fights. And not to say that Alex Pineda isn't the toughest of all fights, but, the world it's not his oyster, but like he could have just done a promo for Alex Pineda and people wouldn't have thought it was crazy after he pulled that left hand so beautifully.
No, he's being really. I've never explained Dominic Reyes as someone that I considered really smart. If I'm being honest, he always came off a bit of a jock, a bit of a kind of a meathead, kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's this. He seems to have found this new sense of faith. He talks about it a lot, which seems to be pretty new in the last year or so. Talks a lot about his fiance, which seems to have him grounded and at least pointed in the right direction. Whatever he's doing, it's working for sure. But even on the other side, Nikita Krylov, which I don't think a lot of people are going to talk too much about. We haven't seen him in a long time. There's this weird. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe he's Ukrainian, correct?
Yes, he now is Russian and associates with Russia. He was actually labeled a separatist in 2014, I believe it was. I actually got my notes right here. But he left at one point in time. But now, in totality, he has embraced Russia, with the flag and everything else. So
wow. Yeah, well, I thought that was. I remember when those emails came down when he didn't want to be labeled Ukrainian. He took all the stuff off of his bio, everything off of his clothes, and then he kind of disappears for a while. He's always kind of been the wild card in the division for me. But I think you said it perfectly when you said you're either getting better or you're getting worse, and I think that he's on the other side of that right now. But I think his activity is probably some of the issues there.
It's hard to sometimes know where to sort of split the pie when it comes to like credit to one guy and blame to the other. I remember kind of being criticized, and now in retrospect, maybe I was a little strong, but Derek Brunson on a suicide mission against Robert Whittaker back in the day, it's like, bro, just chill for a second, and I do think like for Nikita Krylov, just chill. I know you're an outstanding finisher, but I just think having been in that octagon in a couple years, he was so excited from the press conference, and that's okay too. But like, he was way more excited to greet me this week than ever before. And, maybe he was just a little bit too excited. He's also a human being who emotionally at one point in his career left the UFC by choice because he wanted to fight closer to home, So I think he's dealt with a lot personally and doesn't always allow him to put his best foot forward.
No, I agree. And I think Dominic Reyes looked fantastic. I also think equally Nikita Krylov looked bad. But that is what it is. And then we move on to what Bryce Mitchell was calling the people's main event, which was again another fascinating situation. When this Bryce Mitchell fight comes out, I asked him myself, do you feel like this is your punishment? Because this is essentially what it felt like. Bryce Mitchell comes out, he says a bunch of dumb shit, and then gets one of the most dangerous guys in the division who's streaking, who's unranked, who's a serious problem. And he said, yeah, I feel like I'm being punished for some things that I said and was fine seemingly with the position he was in, but he was getting booed. I mean, John, you should see the comment section on some of the videos that we've posted just on here. People hated Bryce Mitchell. But then we get to fight week, and then the press conference happens, and there was some situations where maybe Jean Silva was a bit corny and a little bit dorky, and I think there was something there with the language barrier, and I think being in Florida with a bunch of just hot-blooded Americans and Bryce Mitchell being a gun-toting, flag-waving Arkansas man helped a little bit. But I guess, long story short, you've seen that switch a little bit where Bryce got a pop, when he came out, and there were still plenty of people angry. But I guess before we even talk about the fight, what did you make of kind of the switch where he kind of went from heel to babyface almost overnight?
So I'm a dog person, right? But I would also suggest to you that Bryce Mitchell won the press conference, right? I mean, bro, when he says to the masses, and his pauses and his inflections were absolutely perfect, right? The way he set it up, and they all make the same noise right before, I kill the dogs, they all squeal or whatever he said. I probably didn't do it justice. Cold-blooded. And yeah, dude, right? Like he needed the line. right? Even though I am a God-fearing dog lover, right? So it definitely, I think, changed the complexion a little bit, and it was good for him to feel the embrace. He couldn't have fought any harder, bro. As he said, like, he maybe could have fought smarter, but he's fighting a guy that Joe Rogan said before the fight carries himself and looks like a world champion in many respects of this game. And I didn't necessarily put Jean Silva on that pedestal, and I have to sort of be aligned with Joe now. But I thought Bryce Mitchell fought hard and went out on his shield. I mean, he tapped and went out. You know, he tried to get things done in the striking game. He desperately went for takedowns. He had abdomen muscles for the first time in his life, looking in the mirror. Like, Bryce Mitchell left no stone unturned, signed on the dotted line immediately to fight a guy against whom there wasn't a lot of upside after being on the wrong end a couple fights ago of that devastating knockout. You know, as a martial artist and fighter and a guy who's been nothing but respectful, at least to, you know, most people in 99% of instances, you know, I'm happy that he competed the way he did.
I love fights when both guys overperform where their opponents are really good. It's a lot of fun for me. I think it happened when Volk fought Islam the first time. I think that Volk was much better in the grappling and the wrestling than we expected him to be. And then I think that was the first time we really seen Islam with real championship level striking when he couldn't get it done wrestling. This was like another one of those situations where I thought, man, if Bryce gets a couple takedowns or gets a takedown or they get into grappling exchanges, he probably is going to walk away with this. But if he can't get a takedown, he's probably going to get smoked on his feet. And it was very much the opposite. Bryce overperformed big time on his feet. He was safe. He was landing big leg kicks. Had John Silva confused, maybe is the correct word. I don't know that he was hurt ever, but absolutely thinking more than I think he expected to. Yeah. And I was really impressed with John Silva's grappling ability. His takedown defense was really good. He attacked immediately when he was taken down or in any grappling exchanges. Had Bryce in trouble a couple times before the finish. These guys really surprised me. These fighting nerds are something else. Is there something to it, or is my coworker Chael correct that maybe they just have a bunch of really good guys and a good gimmick?
Well, time will tell, right? It's one thing to present the athletes with the analytics, and they certainly have hired non-MMA minds to try to sort of come up, you know, find patterns, right? Patterns is now the buzzword, right? Optics was the big word in MMA a year ago. Now it's patterns. But Pablo Sucupira is really unpacking something. And just the way I think as a leader, right? It's one thing to be sort of a boss. It's another thing to be a leader. And I think they have a really good leader, and they do keep things close to the vest a little bit. It really is crazy when you sort of ask people who's the fighting nerd of these four guys that are now 19-0 in the UFC, who has the highest ceiling. And my goodness, man. I mean, who has the lowest ceiling of Carlos Prates, Mauricio Rufy, Kyle Bohalio, and Jean Silva? Now, Jean Silva just choked to sleep one of the division's best grapplers while he showboated and looked around the octagon as if he was disinterested in an Anderson Silva type way. You know, we all love Chris Weidman, but Anderson Silva, my goodness, man, it's almost like he didn't feel like being the champion anymore in some respects. You know, John Silva's looking around and showboating and doing all these different things. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the extent to which he's ready for prime time in the form of like Alexander Volkanovski, but who's he going to be a betting underdog to at 45 exactly after what we saw Saturday?
Yeah, not a whole lot of people. And I've been pushing back on this fight nerds thing a little bit, not because I don't think that they're great or that they have something serious going on. I feel like we talked about, you know, they talked a lot about patterns and breaking guys down and watching film and you know, I just kept going like, I mean, so does Saif Saud and so does Mark Montoya and so does, you know, at one point in time, the genius and the fighting nerd from the old guard would be like Greg Jackson or Winklejohn. Like a lot of people take that approach, right? And my I guess my explanation always was, well, now you have four elite athletes that were good in their own right, anyways, and it's taken them to the next level. But after the Bryce Mitchell performance, it just seemed like that was perfect and it was game planned and it went exactly. He was patient. He did it, as braggadocious as he is, and he's got a bit of showboating going on. He wasn't making showboating mistakes. He wasn't. It was different. He was really, really well trained, and that's the difference.
Yeah. when you're in that flow state, so to speak, right? I really feel like you're fighting on instinct and having fun in there, and it's very rare. And if you go back and watch Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, I was critical to Volk for sort of showboating a little bit and, picking up the other corner in a critical moment of that fight. But there's just an indescribable looseness to some athletes when they get to fight night. And Paddy Pimblett might be the best example. I think Ian Machado Gary's another good example. These guys just absolutely love it. And DC even uttered aloud on the broadcast this past weekend, like, it's crazy how much some of these guys just absolutely love fight night, because for Georges St. Pierre and many others, it was the opposite of that.
Yeah, they didn't have as much fun. That's true.
No, George had no fun.
None. Hated it, which is fascinating to me. It's interesting. I don't know. It's fascinating because I
didn't like my high school basketball games as much as I think I liked practice, because we were 5 and 17.
All right. So if we're moving on, this is probably going to be the one spot where we're not going to be probably as nice and have as much fun with. But Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. My feelings were hurt a little bit. And I was beginning to be more upset at Yair about it. But then the more I thought about the fight and the way that it ended, I think I started to find out that Yair Rodriguez becomes more dangerous the more danger that's coming at him. And if the other guy is unwilling to engage, he has a tough time starting. He doesn't like to lead the dance. Once the fire and the chaos starts, he seems to be more than willing to oblige you in any aggressive outbursts that you tend to have. It's hard to blame just one guy over the other, but I think a lot of this does fall on Patricio Pitbull's lap. Do you think that he laid an egg or had some UFC jitters, or do you think that we're getting a 37-year-old version of Pitbull that's a bit watered down from when he was younger?
Well, the majority of his fights have been scheduled for 25 minutes, and I guess that's probably a little bit of a tired angle, but you cannot waste 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes in a 15-minute fight like this. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, to be sure. Sometimes I sort of find myself, as you're talking, wondering like how Yair Rodriguez, Michael Chandler would go, because Paddy Pimblett is a natural entertainer as fighter and orator. But in our fighter meeting, you can be sure he's like, I need to win this fight at all costs. Yes, I am hoping I'm going to be 12-6ing the heck out of Michael Chandler's face, but you have to win. And Yair Rodriguez, immediately after the fight, says that Hunter Campbell promised him a championship opportunity if he welcomed Patricio Pitbull to the UFC and beat him. So I don't know, man. I feel like fighter is just the hardest job in pro sports other than NFL quarterback, because there are only 10 of those guys that are actually elite at it. Because, I don't know what Yair's supposed to do. He wrestled his ass off for 12 weeks in Chicago. He is doing all the right things. He has abs for the first time. He engaged Pitbull a little bit in that realm late, which I thought was probably against his better judgment. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just almost apologetic when at this stage of my life and career and fighter first, because it's like, God, man, what's Mario Bautista supposed to do against Jose Aldo? Winning's not enough, and it's hard. It's hard being a fighter.
It is. It's a tough spot, and I think that's why. I think personally, between Poirier and I, we were a little bit critical between the two of us. Not even on the desk or to the masses, but a little bit critical. Like, if you're Yair Rodriguez, you're coming off of some losses. You've already been in some championship situations. You've held the interim title. This has got to be the time that you show out, and you got to really risk it. But also, that's Patricio Pitbull on the other side. Whether he's been around here for a long time or not, that's a really dangerous guy, crazy intimidating, good power in his hand. He's got really no holes in his game. And it seemed like it took a while for him to turn on. I guess I wanted to see more out of Yair, because I expect more out of him, because I know he's better than that. And I don't think that I can't say that about Pitbull in the UFC octagon.
Well, and Hunter and he sort of locked eyes, but what do you think they do now based upon that performance, right? That wasn't the punctuation mark, to be sure. And I think when you have Movsar Evloev, who is 9-0 in the division, and who knows about Jean Silva, right? I don't believe that he should cut the line against the former interim champion Yair Rodriguez, right, as an unranked guy. But
God damn it, they should fight each other, though.
I mean, well, the Diego Lopez Yair Rodriguez business needs to be settled, I think, and why not settle it on the greatest proving ground in combat sports? So, I kind of need to see that like as soon as humanly possible, if those guys would be willing. I mean, do you don't think promotionally they're doing everything in their power to go? Well, I don't know, Yair. I mean, you know, hey, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, availability is key. I mean, Volk's hand is busted, and he's saying he doesn't want to wait till September. I think it'd be foolish for Volk to go to Guadalajara and fight Yair Rodriguez or anybody at altitude, if I'm being honest. It's not quite Mexico City, but it's elevated.
Not at
So,
35.
uh,
Not at 35. You're already breaking records. You don't want to keep putting things.
right,
You don't want to put your back against the wall any more than you have to.
right, right. But
Um,
Pitbull's trying to fight like next weekend or on your card in Kansas City, right? Because
man,
he's got to flip the switch, dude.
Yeah, and I worried that maybe just there was some ring rust. He's not a young man, more than capable at the highest level. I'm not saying that I don't think Pitbull
Yeah.
can be competitive at the highest level in this division. I've been a fan of Pitbull forever, him and his brother. But I think I expected more. I hoped for more. I guess I don't know that I
Yeah.
expected it because it is hard seeing guys come in from other organizations. One little note before I move on: I've never wanted to speak Spanish. I can't recall one time ever in my whole life where I thought, man, I wish I could speak Spanish, until Diego Lopez and Yair
Dude.
Rodriguez were going back and forth. My blood was so mad, like was boiling, so mad at myself. Like, why didn't you learn another fucking
Ah,
language? Because you could be a part of this right now.
Oh, well, I will send you a video that is as close to the direct translation of what was being said. Now, Yair at the post-fight press conference, if you can't tell, I'm absolutely fascinated by this. At the post-fight press conference, Yair was suggesting that Marco Beltran, former UFC fighter, who is sort of the man in the middle of this, would be the one who would give the media the explanation as to what exactly is going on here. I don't know exactly what was going on, but there was something that was done to Marco Beltran or somebody involving him that Marco seemingly took issue with. And Yair, as Marco's friend, is going to right this wrong in the world famous octagon, and we're going to sell it to the people, and we can't wait. So after we get off the air, I will send you the direct translation. But this is real. This is not promotional fabrication, or this is a real thing. And one thing I'll just add is the man who was up there in the middle of all of it at the press conference. Dana White doesn't love when fighters who aren't fighting against each other that weekend take over and are going at each other. And you have Volk, the man around whom the card is built, sitting there sort of looking to his left and to his right. So
Yeah.
I have to manage that in real time. I don't have Dana in my ear telling me to, shut it down. So trying in that moment to sort of think about how much I should let that moment marinate as a non-Spanish speaker versus letting it go. And, hopefully they fight and maybe the footage is useful. We'll see.
Perfect. All right, dude. Paddy fucking Pimblett. Paddy fucking Pimblett. All right. At one point in time, Paddy didn't want to do an interview with me in Manchester because I've been critical of him at times. And you know me, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to talk about what I see. I don't go to super gyms. I live in goddamn Nebraska. I'm not going to see these guys. And when I do, they don't say anything. So it is what it is. I'm just honest. I'm just honest about the product and what I see. That's what I get paid for. I've never said that I didn't think Paddy was good. I just, I think at times I've been critical of performances. I was very critical of the Jared Gordon performance.
Yeah.
I think I was a bit critical of the Tony Ferguson performance at the end. I have nothing to be critical of. And even this weekend when I did pick against him, it had nothing to do with him. I was actually very impressed with him. It was more I thought Michael Chandler was going to have a breakout performance with his back against the wall, knowing that all these big these co-main event opportunities, these contender fights, the Dustin Poiriers, Justin Gaethje's, Charles Oliveira, those opportunities all go away with a loss to Paddy Pimblett. And I thought that would be enough. So I did pick against him, but before we get to the fight itself, today I was I'm here in Denver at Factory X. I came back this morning. I'm training. Mondays, we do a bag workout for 3 rounds at the beginning, the whole team. So we kind of surround the edges of the mat. We bump some trap music, some shit you'd want to sell some drugs to. And it's me, Cody Brundage, Dustin Jacoby, Chris Gutierrez, Jonathan Martinez. It's a bunch of high-level guys. And we are bumping some trap music. We're having a great time. It's a lot of joking and whatever. Every song that came on, John, we are doing the Paddy Pimblett dance that I laughed at grown ass men doing it in the entire arena. Uh, I don't know what the fuck it is, but Paddy Pimblett has it.
He's got a lot of things. He's a master orator, and I think what made Conor McGregor stand out, and it maybe stand out even apart from a guy that like Chael Sonnen that I hold in high regard, is that Conor was just shooting from the hip in his talking prime. And so as far as that part is concerned, when Paddy Pimblett calls Arman Tsarukyan a fucking helmet and calls other guys a sausage, bro,
Right.
it's just brilliant. It really is. The
hysterical.
timing, the delivery, the accent, it all works. That says nothing of what he can do as an actual fighter. And I'll preface this by saying, I've been wrong on a lot of fighters that I believed in. It's probably a longer list than the prospects and prodigies I've been right on. But Paddy Pimblett's story is of a guy who could have gotten to the UFC at 21 years of age and 23, but didn't because he wanted to be a proper athlete, as he puts it. And when I sat down with him a month ago in Vegas, he's looking me in the eyes and talking about, I want Charles. I want Dustin, right? Before Chandler. And I'm thinking, he's not talking about Islam, And the fact that he would call out these guys and wants to fight Arman Tsarukyan, right? His manager's probably like, hey, Paddy, can we just strategically, because I don't know who they think is the most beatable of those guys, but that mentality, I think, just speaks to the self-belief. For some guys, having a child, and in this case, twins, it doesn't do anything for them motivationally or in terms of the discipline. And for some guys, it can make all the difference in the world. Now, this was an athlete I believed in prior. He had a couple of bumpy performances, and maybe that had something to do with some of the behavior in between training camps. But he's not only a proper athlete, he's a plus athlete. He has chokes. He is a violent man with a mean streak. He's a violent-minded man. When you hear him talk about 12-6 elbows and when he looks you in the eye and says that Scousers don't get knocked out, he's going to go out on his shield if you hit him hard. I can't wait to see how far he can take it. I was blown away.
Yeah, I thought the Scousers don't get knocked out thing. He's been saying it for a long time. I thought it was a tagline. No, he fucking lives it. He believes it. He believes every bit of it, which is it's fun, man. He's so much fun, and watching him fight the Arman Tsarukyan call out, I think people think is absolutely insane. I got a hot take. I think that's the most winnable one. I think
there you go.
That's the better matchup. It's Tsarukyan's got great striking, but he's not known to be this one punch, sit you on your ass guy that's going to smoke you like that. Of course, he's dangerous and he's got plenty of skills there and can do well there with anybody in the world. But I would say that the biggest danger that Tsarukyan brings to the game is his wrestling and his grappling. And that's kind of where Paddy believes in himself the most. I mean, you look at a guy like Gaethje, who's just absolutely terrifying on his feet with a style like Paddy Pimblett fights. He is hittable at times and does like to stand in the pocket. So a guy like Charles Oliveira, who's a prolific finisher on the ground and very opportunistic, but also fucking dangerous on his feet. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Guy like Gaethje, Dustin Poirier with that nasty lead hook he drags across everybody's skull. Great takedown defense, especially we've seen him do really well or at least overperform in the grappling side of it with Islam. I thought the Tsarukyan thing is like, it's got just enough where people think you're fucking crazy. But if you really dig into it, like, shit, man, that might be the one. That might be the one.
Fascinating. Charles has always been the name on the tip of his tongue, I think, because Paddy, too, cares about legacy and recognizes that Charles's body of work is such that he wants to sort of take out that guy. And especially, too, Paddy wants to prove to the world that he can grapple with Charles Oliveira. Certainly I think that fight would be one in which all the martial arts were employed. But, bro, Paddy Pimblett and Charles Oliveira, for me, just as a fan, is insane. And I would say, even though Paddy Pimblett is not Conor McGregor, right? And he may be about this life more than Conor McGregor, even if he has financial freedom. He could have called for Islam Makhachev, bro.
Yeah.
He isn't. And I think he deserves the sports respect. Like, he definitely has the respect of his contemporaries, his fellow fighters. And he's going about it the right way. He's not calling for title fights. He's real. He's not scripted. He's the man.
Okay, so Michael Chandler. What? Man, I said this on the desk and I felt really bad about it, but I don't feel bad about it because I don't still believe it or that it's untrue. I feel bad about it because I really have so much respect for who Michael Chandler is definitely as a fighter. I think he's incredible. But as a man, I have a lot of respect for
Yep.
Michael Chandler. I think he's an incredible father. He's seemingly a great husband. He kind of seems to live. Everyone speaks in motivational quotes. I feel like these days in our sport, it's either we're
Yeah.
thanking God or we're speaking in motivational quotes.
Yeah.
But Michael Chandler seems to actually live it. Like he kind of seems to be the guy that lives exactly how he says he does. And I just appreciate the shit out of that. But what I don't want to do, and this is what I said on the desk, I don't ever want to be the one that calls for someone's retirement because it fucking
Mm.
pisses me off when people do it for me. But whether they're right or not, I don't like it. So I did say on the desk though that what I don't want to watch is Michael Chandler run whatever version he brought on Saturday night into that octagon, jerking the curtain on a pay-per-view versus Ignacio Bahamondes or Grant Dawson, or pick your absolute terrifying up and comer.
Right.
And I like those guys, especially Grant Dawson, shout out to my Nebraska brethren, but they don't deserve that. If that makes any sense. I don't think Michael Chandler deserves it. And I don't think that there's any of those guys 10 through 15 deserve to have whatever version Michael's been bringing to the octagon as a scalp on their mantle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you put it well. I wonder the extent to which he would ever admit to sort of overtraining, and I
It's
just
got to
wonder
be a thing,
sometimes, even
right?
though I don't know, I just I feel really badly for him, right? Because even as a human being who seemingly does a lot of the things the right way, people want to take cracks at his armor when it comes to that stuff as well. So I feel like it's a hard day to be Michael Chandler, except maybe when it comes to the bank account. But yes, like as someone who's never in the business of retiring fighters, is he going to fight Drew Dober in a race to see who can get knocked out first? I mean, I just don't know what exactly we're doing at this stage of his career. Ignacio Bahamondes is one of the top 10 strikers in any division in the UFC. And so I think I sort of had a feeling you might drop Nacho's name and then you did it. So yeah, man, I really don't know where he goes from here. I really do not know. And he is not attached emotionally to these singular results, but it did seem a little bit concerning. And I love Michael, right? But of course, we are people who are paid to sort of talk about these things. But, he was sort of talking about some of the detachment from wins and losses in advance of this fight. And that flew in the face of what he was saying going into the Charles Oliveira fight, which was that he had fallen in love once again with the idea of becoming the undisputed champion. And I don't really know how to unpack his legacy, bro, because he had a huge moment in nearly winning the undisputed lightweight championship against Charles Oliveira. So then how would we quantify his relative eliteness if he had actually won that fight? Actually had a moment in the rematch with Charles, had moments against Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. So what is his UFC legacy at 2-5? I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to. I don't even know. It's hard to explain. How do you tell in 10 years? How do we tell the Michael Chandler story? It's the guy that went 2-5 and almost beat all 7 of them. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
I guess 6 of them, everybody but Paddy, right?
Yeah. You didn't have too many moments there, but yeah, I don't know. I just, and again, I bet if I guarantee Michael Chandler's going to see this and his initial thought is going to be like, "Fuck you, Anthony." But it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of love and respect for whatever his legacy is, even maybe being one we can't quantify. I don't know. I don't know what we do. Like, I don't even try to matchmake him. Who?
Well,
Pitbull,
right.
maybe? Like,
Right. I mean, it's really difficult. And then, you think about like the Hall of Fame is oftentimes you can use the fight wing as a conduit through which to get certain guys in. So maybe his fight with Justin Gaethje would be a fight that one day went into the Hall of Fame. And that would be a nice acknowledgement of the body of work and the commitment to the sport and doing it the right way, even if there were a few wayward fouls in between. But yeah, man, I just feel bad for him because this was just a real like bottom feeding type performance relative to his legacy. And,
yeah, it's a whooping.
yeah.
Yeah, it was and again, I don't want to take anything away from Paddy's performance because I thought he looked incredible. But that's just not the type of performances you can put it. And the Dana White thing was interesting to me too. As being someone, again, I love my boss, I love Dana, I love everything about the UFC, but being a recipient of kind of Dana's wrath when they say, well, where do you go with guys like Clay Guida? And then Anthony Smith gets thrown into it and it's immediate. Oh, he's got to retire. He's probably done. And then Michael Chandler, to, again, no disrespect, but to be on the kind of the streak that he's on and then turn in the type of performance that he just did and to still get his praises says a lot about how the boss man feels about Michael Chandler, because he was very positive about Chandler and respectful of his performance. It was a little bit surprising to me.
It's interesting. So I didn't see that, right? So I'm sort of digesting that right now. So Michael Chandler told us in the fighter meeting that he got the call from Hunter Campbell 10 weeks out while sipping a margarita in like Turks and Caicos or something. And he said, really, for the most sort of substantial time in his career, he began this training camp hurting, right? And got increasingly more confident during it, right? But I don't think he at all recovered properly, right? And then it becomes sort of a paper chasing thing. And he's certainly a company guy, you know. I think it's easy to be a company guy if you're getting $1 million to show. I mean, I would do fucking 50 fights a night if they want, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I do think it sort of comes back to something I said earlier. It's just really hard to be a fighter, you know, and, you know, when it comes to just, you know, how you're viewed, you know, by the people who matter. But he's done a lot of big things. But it makes me want to go seek out his exact remarks.
Yeah, it was interesting, man. It really was. All right, I've kept you longer than I promised I was going to, but we have to talk. Obviously, the main event: Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Actually, I have a question. It's about a specific round, actually.
Yeah.
Before I'm trying to look at this thing as a whole and try to figure out where to start, and this is something that's bothering me. In the fourth round,
Yes.
I believe it was the fourth round.
Yes.
I actually got a text message today from an MMA judge, angry at me.
Sal D'Amato?
No, it was not
Okay.
one of the judges from the weekend, but
Okay.
just a MMA judge in the space. And I'm not sure that I said anything on the desk. Maybe Bisping said something, and people still have Bisping and I very connected just because of the show before, and we're still friends. And I think Bisping said something that pissed him off, and he's coming to me about it and wants to talk about it. But in the fourth round, as I'm watching the fight, I believe Volkanovski takes an uppercut or something to the eye, a punch to the eye,
Yep.
and seems to be a bit hurt, backs away. But as I'm watching, he seems definitely hurt, and Diego Lopez sees that and then fights like he's fighting someone that's hurt. But from where I was sitting in my seat in front of the TV, not watching it live at foot level like the rest of everyone else, seemed like a very clear round for Alexander Volkanovski. It looked like Diego Lopez upticked his output, but Volkanovski won every single one of those exchanges, even though he was hurt and seemingly didn't have a lot of vision in that eye. So I guess from your perspective, where you're sitting in your seat right there watching, what was that fourth round really about?
So I had a scoring expert on the Anik and Florian podcast today to dissect this fourth round because Alexander Volkanovski outlanded Diego Lopez 32-16, and Sal D'Amato gave round 4 to Alexander Volkanovski, and you saw it that way. And certainly beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and judges don't have as many tools as fighters. We could give them half points and other things, but it's a round worth re-examining to be sure. And the way I guess I've been trained, and perhaps I shouldn't be looking at the 25 minutes in total, but the biggest singular strike and moment of this entire fight for me was the first shot on that eye that seemingly maybe was the glove scratching, and then there was a follow-up right. And, you know, even after that, in that round, Alexander Volkanovski came back a little bit. I was critical of Sal and perhaps shouldn't have been on the broadcast, but, you know, you can't necessarily take it back. And I had a scoring expert on who was suggestive that it's a close round, and Alexander Volkanovski absolutely could have won that round 10-9. But the way I've been trained in terms of damage, you know, I feel like if Diego Lopez had just done a skosh more with that consequential moment, he might have actually finished the fight. So that was the biggest strike of the fight for me. But I've been talked off of my perch that it was clear 10-9 for Diego. So I'm open-minded about it, you know?
I'm going to be honest with you, John. I didn't even hear you talk about that. I think I'm getting I'm seeing the kind of online stuff where people are saying that it's absolutely crazy that Volkanovski could have won that round. And maybe for the first time in my entire life, I might be on the same side as Sal Diamato, because that's
Yeah.
probably
Well,
that
you're
never
not wrong.
happens.
It's a
Yeah, that
close
never
round. I
happens.
just solicited more information because I wanted to feel better about it,
No,
but
it's smart.
hey, I mean, dude, I don't know. You guys are getting ready to do the post show, but I said on the broadcast, Lopez better get going here late round 3. He could be down 3-0. And the matchmakers thought that I was crazy. I thought this was a clear 4-1 Volkanovski. And
So
today
did
people
I.
are telling me, and a lot of people telling me it could be 50-45. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
round,
the second round was very close, but I did
yeah.
ultimately give it to Lopez. But if
So I gave
you could,
Volk 1, 2, 3, 5. And so if round 4, I mean,
yeah.
I think this was Volk's best performance as far as I'm concerned in many, many, many respects. I mean, call me a recent biased guy or otherwise.
No, I agree. There is a world where you could convince me that Volkanovski definitely won round 2, and I would have given him 50-45. I thought it was an incredible performance. I thought that he underperformed in some areas. I think that he could have, I don't know, been a little more aggressive in his pursuit of the takedown.
Right.
I think he could have taken a little more heat off of Diego Lopez there, and maybe convinced him to not be so aggressive and kind of walk him down the way that he did, which would have taken away from Volkanovski's movement. He wouldn't have had to have done so much of it, which I do think at times gives the illusion that the other guy is winning some of those exchanges, when even if Volkanovski is winning the exchanges, he's doing it backing
Yeah.
up. So I don't know. I thought that it was an incredible. It's not often that you have a title fight where one guy possibly wins 5-0, but likely it's a 4-1 fight, and you don't really have anything negative to say about Diego Lopez. I don't think that his stock went down at all. I thought that he looked really good. I just thought he looked like I think that his aggressiveness, his athleticism, and his willingness to get into a firefight kept it closer than maybe the X's and the O's would show if we were to grade their actual skill sets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Diego Lopez is right there. I think there's a lot of value in this whole experience for him. I guess I've heard from some segment of the fan base that just wanted more aggression, especially in that round 4 moment. And certainly from my vantage point, as I'm constantly looking at that right corner of Francisco Grasso, they just felt like in the moments where he actually stunned Volk, he didn't lean on his chin enough and really close the distance, and maybe a way leaning more into reckless abandon. So that would maybe be my only criticism, but there might have been some pacing going on from Diego Lopez. Like I think Chandler maybe could have got a little bit more balls to the wall early on in that fight and just gone for broke. But yeah, I don't know that there are a lot of pockets for criticism for Diego Lopez. I just think he got Volk on Volk's best night after Volk was rested and ready and just the focus machine that he was in his prime. And I think sometimes you can do everything right. And I'm not suggesting that they did everything right, but you can do everything right. And the problem can just be the opponent is too good.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I did feel like I've never worried about Volkanovski's durability before until obviously the 2 fights that preceded this one. And then I thought everything was going really well. I thought there was some really heavy exchanges that were happening in the inside there a bunch, which I would go out on a limb and say that the reason Diego Lopez wasn't as aggressive in some of those situations was because he was eating right hands from every goddamn
Oh,
angle you could eat a fucking right hand from.
right. Yeah, yeah,
At one
yeah.
point in time, there has to be, whether it's hurting you or not. As a fighter, I'll tell you that I've taken lots of big shots in my day that have absolutely done nothing to me in terms of rocking me or moving me, but I know by the sound of it and by the looks on the faces of the people that are around the octagon that everyone's surprised I'm still upright. And then it does make you pause a little bit to wait into range, because you just start to wonder how many more of those can I take. So I'm sympathetic with Diego there, because I thought that he took a lot of them and then tried to avoid taking as many as possible. But
Yeah, he
um,
was getting jabbed up all night. I
yeah, the
mean,
jab
and
was nasty
I don't
too.
know if I said this across your wake this week, but I read something on UFC.com. Dan Ige said he's never felt presence like Diego Lopez. Of all the elite guys that Dan Ige has fought, he says he's never felt presence like Diego Lopez, and
Wow.
pain. And pain. He says everything he threw hurt. And he didn't even land that cleanly on Volkanovski. His percentage was so low. And Volk's eyes were pretty visually beat up. I just feel like Diego Lopez just genetically, I don't know. Hearing Ige talk about everything hurting was pretty telling for me.
It's about as good of a compliment as you can get. When a
Yeah,
guy
the
like Dan
presence.
Ige talks about your presence,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
impressive. Wow.
yeah.
All right. Well, John, I know that you are a busy man, and I absolutely appreciate your time and your willingness to come on here and come hang out with me. I've said it on plenty of podcast episodes. I've said it on this podcast that I definitely wouldn't be the broadcaster that I am without the tidbits of advice that I get from you whenever I can possibly drag them out of you. So, man, I appreciate the fuck out of you, and hopefully one of these days I can drag you back on here.
Anytime, bro. Anthony Smith calls. We answer every time. We'll be watching April 26th as we're doing childcare. And in the not too distant future, I can't wait till I look to my right on a fight night or pay-per-view night. And my fellow bald head is right there with me.
Hell
I know
yeah.
you're not going to Turkey like Eric Nixick to get your hairline done. So
No, because
good
I
man.
just keep it cut short anyways. I actually use you as an example all the time. I go like, yeah, I could go to Turkey and get my hair cut, but I would just still cut it bald anyways because Jon
That's
Anik's
right.
got a full head of lettuce and still goes bald.
We're just trying to look as tough as possible.
Hell yeah. All right, John, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Anthony, I did mean to ask you, despite how great Dominic Reyes looked, was part of you like, fuck, because now you have to continue to see the highlights of him fighting you? Because they continue to use that in his promo packages.
Yeah, that's a highlight for sure. No, I thought Dominic looked great. I guess a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of behind the scenes. Kelly and I tried to get Dominic on. I'm sure with just the travel and all the other stuff, we'll get that going at some point in time. But I mean, I care enough and it was impressed enough that I wanted to have him on here and talk about it. Even with him not being the focal point and not getting a lot of love from the weekend after the Jean Silva performance, Paddy Pimblett, and the main event. He kind of got overshadowed a bit, but I still wanted to give him the opportunity to come on here and just talk about what he's got going on and what the switch was. But yeah, I mean, that's never fun to be like part of someone's promo package, that's for sure. But yeah, either way, I was happy for him.
No, I completely agree. And like you said, hopefully we will get him on because I'm sure there's an abundance of respect between the two of you. And I just love to hear you guys talk about the, post John Jones loss mentality and how to rebound from that and losing skids to winning streaks. And I just think there's a lot of good stuff that the two of you guys could talk about. So hopefully we can get that sorted out in the future. But for right now, I figure if we close with Ask Anthony, we haven't done it in a couple of weeks. You and John covered UFC 314 from head to toe. I don't think there's much more we need to get into there. So why don't we end on a fun note? No?
Let's do it. I love this part. I love the questions. There's just always so much going on. You guys don't want a 3-hour episode. You guys don't want a 3-hour episode. So we try to keep this to a listenable length. And we just don't always have time for questions, but God damn it, we do now. And I'm excited for it.
Awesome. All right. I picked out, we still have like over 100 questions from the couple of times that I've posted prompting people for those. So I picked out a couple for today. First one is, as someone who's fought both regionally and across multiple promotions, what are some of the perks of being a UFC fighter specifically?
Oh, man. Well, obviously anyone who's fighting at this level is doing so because they want to be one of the best in the world. Fighting in the UFC absolutely scratches that itch for sure. You are one of the best in the world once you're here. Financially, compared to fighting regionally and different promotions, the UFC is absolutely going to be the most you're going to earn. Probably, of course, there's your, we talked about Pitbull with John. Like Pitbull was making really good money in Bellator. So I mean, there's other places you can make really good money, but generally, if you're one of the best guys in the world, you get the most money you're going to make is probably going to be in the UFC. Perks, I say this all the time, and it's the best perk about fighting in the UFC, other than those things, chasing your dream, the money, the opportunities, all of that stuff. Other than that, the best part is when someone who's maybe not an MMA fan asks you what you do for a living. It's really easy to say, I fight in the UFC, because everyone understands that and they recognize it. If you're
a lot of people think UFC and MMA are like,
for sure, The same.
synonyms.
Yeah.
Like I fight UFC.
Yeah. So when I say I fight in the UFC, people go, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that before." Whether like you see the commercials, you see whatever. But if you don't fight in the UFC, but you do it at a high level, or like you're trying to get to the UFC, or you're in like the PFL or something like that, then you have to explain. Well, I fight MMA, and they say, "Oh, like in the UFC." Like, yeah, like that, but for like a different company. So do you have to explain that whole fucking scenario? The best part is just being able to say, yeah, I fight in the UFC. And say, oh, like the stuff you see on TV? Exactly. That's exactly where I work. And you don't have to get into this weird, like, yeah, but like they're kind of the same, but like my promotion's not as good as the UFC, but I'm pretty good. Like I could fight there if I had the opportunity. Like you have to have this weird fucking conversation. And then their response.
I could have went pro, but I tore my ACL in high school.
Exactly. That's what it sounds like. So then the next question for people that have that explanation is, oh, okay, so what else do you do? Because then they expect that you're going to have another job. So that's the best perk I have.
Okay, this one kind of goes hand in hand because we always see, and maybe it didn't happen to you at a UFC event, but we always see these huge monster name celebrities that come to the UFC fights depending on what city they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So who's a celebrity that you were most surprised that recognized you? It doesn't have to be at a UFC event. I'm just
100%. I already got the answer. I already got the answer. Cuba Gooding Jr. I don't
know who that is.
Oh my God, you're so young. He's an actor. Google him, I suppose, really quick while I'm telling this story. But it was the weirdest, like, twosome of people too. Was Cuba Gooding Jr. was with MGK. And do you know who MGK is, Kelly? Okay, Cuba Gooding Jr. was with. It's an odd couple. It's never two people you would have expected to be together at the same place hanging out.
Sure.
To be fair though, Cuba was fucked up. He like kept kissing me on my face, and like he was just he had a blast. Wow. And he was in the back after I fought one time. I was surprised by that. Tom Brady fist bumped me one time when I was leaving the octagon. I don't know if he knew who I was or he just was having a good time at the fights and enjoyed himself. So that one was pretty cool. God damn it. Who's the chef?
Oh, he was O.J. Simpson in the American Crime Story, the FX series.
So. Yeah.
He was fantastic in that.
Yeah. So I was shocked by that one. Steve-O blew me away too, but that's not super surprising because I love Steve-O. But he's a huge MMA fan, so like I wasn't shocked that he knew who I was. I was just shocked that he cared enough to talk to me.
Sure.
Let me think here. I was just going somewhere and I forgot who I was going to talk. Oh, there's that chef that's got that TV show where he screams at people. He's English.
Gordon
Ramsay. So I'm a foodie. So like I've been to Gordon Ramsay's restaurants before. Of course, like in passing, I watched the show just because it's funny. Like I don't know that I've ever watched like a whole season of it, but I just thought Gordon Ramsay was super cool. So I'm getting ready to fight John Jones, and I'm in the octagon, and every time I get in, I kind of pace the outside of it, and I look out into the crowd. I don't know why. It's just something I do. I walk back and forth. Like if I walk second, I can only do half the cage. I just walk my side of it, and I just kind of look in the crowd and see who's out there. And I see Gordon Ramsay, but he's sitting with John Jones's brothers, and stands up when I look out in the crowd and stands up and goes, "Fuck you." It's like, no, damn. Yeah, he hit me with the fucking middle finger and a fuck you. He was sitting with John Jones's brothers. So Gordon Ramsay is
actually, I feel like that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wasn't that mad about it. I was almost like, did I just get the bird from Gordon Ramsay? That's dope. Yeah, it's dope. But yeah, he's sitting with John's brothers. And I don't know if that was his seat like permanently, but that's where he was at the time. He was standing with them.
He was just there to say "fuck you" to you.
So, yeah,
and then he was going to go back to his actual seat.
Like his brothers were super respectful. Like they were kind of cheering, and because John was walking while this was happening, so like everybody's on their feet, Fuck you.
That's actually. I wasn't expecting you to say that. That's
it was fucking great. It was so good. Yeah, it was so good.
I'd be honored if Gordon Ramsay said "fuck you" to me.
Did I ever tell you the Tom Brady story? With
With
Danny?
Danny? Or
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I don't know if I've told it on here. I probably have. I'll tell it again really quick. But so I fight. I finished Jimmy Crute, and this is everyone's there. It's in Jacksonville, so all the Florida football players are there. And Danny, my boxing coach, is a huge Eagles fan, like diehard. And so Tom
Mhm.
fist bumps me on my way out, and then he's standing there, and then Danny follows me out of the octagon. Well, Tom just fist bumped me and walked off. It wasn't a conversation. So then Danny goes, "Hey, Tom." And Tom Brady looks over and wants to go, "Hey, coach." And he goes, "Go Birds." He was just totally
He's such an ass.
he's such an ass. Like, he couldn't pass an opportunity to, he just couldn't let the football part of it go because he's such an Eagles fan. And Tom
Yeah.
just fucking laughed. He just thought it was so funny. But yeah,
Every
that's
single time we do Ask Anthony, Danny submits a question. It's like, does Anthony remember who won the Super Bowl?
he's such an
And I'm like, you're
asshole.
such a shithead.
You should block him from our social media.
No, I love Danny.
You should block
Absolutely
him.
not.
No, you got to block him.
All right, next one. We'll do two more. What's something you learned recently that blew your mind or gave you a new perspective?
Wow. Damn, that's deep.
Listen, we got some fans that go deep.
No, that's a great question. Ask the question again. What's something that I learned?
What's something you learned recently that blew your mind or gave you a new perspective?
Oh God, this is bad podcasting because there's so much dead air right now. But something that I learned recently. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna really think on this, and we're gonna come back
Okay.
to it. We're gonna come back to it maybe next episode. So we got to tag this,
Absolutely.
and I'll have to answer it. I'll answer it at the beginning of the next episode because I really want to
Okay.
think about that one. All right, give me another one.
That's fair. What are you going to miss most when you retire? I think it's a short list.
Yeah, it's not a lot. No, I'm gonna miss the camaraderie here in Denver with the team, and I'll still be in the gym at home and help those guys, but not being in the fire with them like I am currently. I'm gonna miss that for sure. I'm gonna really have a hard time figuring out how to scratch that competitive itch that I have.
Yeah.
That's gonna be that's gonna be tough. Just figuring out how I get that adrenaline rush without doing drugs. You know what I mean? I think
God,
that's what most professional athletes run into, is just trying to figure out
please don't.
how to feel. I mean, I'm not a drug guy, but just trying to find ways to feel alive enough that you can get through regular life. I think that'll be the hard part, but just being in there grinding with the team as one of them and not one of the old guys that's done. Never mind. I don't have to answer it next week. I had a conversation over the weekend. I'm going back to what did I learn recently?
Got it. Okay.
I don't know that it's, I don't know. I'm gonna answer it the best way I know how, but it's just something that's just popped in my head. Over the weekend, I had a conversation with a bunch of I got to hang out with Hudson from Comfort, and I've never been a business guy. I've been punching people in the face for money my whole career, and there's people that are smarter than me that we pay to help manage my money and do all of that stuff. But in terms of starting and running a business, I knew nothing about it, and I still don't really know anything about it. But I'm in the process of starting a business, and so I was able to sit down with Hudson, some of his friends, and just really learn, and not even that they were really preaching to me, but I got to be around a bunch of really successful business people. And when people like that get together, what they talk about is what they know best, and that's their businesses. And so I learned a lot just by listening, not even them talking to me, but them talking to each other about these multi-million-dollar companies, listening to them talk to each other, and then being in a position where if I don't understand something, I could just jump in the middle of their conversation and say, "I don't know what that means. Can you explain that?" And then they had such a, I think they had fun explaining it and kind of having a teaching moment. And then I would just back out of
Because
the
if they're
conversation.
talking about something they're so passionate about and
Right.
they're so successful, and for you to show that you care, you're not just sitting there fly on the wall, you're actually listening intently and wondering what certain things mean. It's probably like a privilege for them to be able to sit there and enlighten you.
Yeah, it was, and I was so appreciative that they were so willing to come forward with the information when I didn't understand something. Like, I just would be listening and they would say something and I would like, there's a lot of acronyms. And so like, I didn't know what they meant. So I would say, what does that mean? And they would say it. And like, sometimes the acronym would make sense. I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. But a lot of times like, I'm still just as confused. And so I would say, I don't know what that means. And then, but I felt comfortable enough to just say, I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know what that means. And then they just break it down and explain it. And then it all makes sense. And then they would just continue their conversation. And I just sit there and listen again. So there's a lot of things about business that I learned about, like a lot of businesses have whole departments that only focus on the cost of acquiring a customer and how to get that cost lower, and then how to retain that same customer without having to pay that same cost again. So like if a business, like sometimes it costs, like for example, one of those guys, like I think it was $8 or something to acquire a new customer. So then like, I don't know, it's like it just, then that cuts into the profit, and then whatever it costs to manufacture the product plus the $8 to acquire it, plus the, all the other stuff that goes along with that. That was fascinating. Just things like that. Like I learned a lot about just business and the things that those guys at a high level that operate at the highest level really worry about, like the marketing and their ads and how they sell it and where they market it, and is it subscription based? Is it like it? I don't know if this is a boring answer, but that's something that like really kind of opened my eyes, and it was something that was way different than I'd ever listened to or knew about.
No, that's awesome. I love Hudson, and that's important. You're about to retire next week. Like you've got to start
Yeah,
thinking about your
for sure.
post-fighting ventures.
Well, I need to grow
So
something, and
boring or not, that's your answer.
right. Well, I think that the reason I thought about that was asking what I'm going to miss the most, and the reason I'm starting a business isn't necessarily because I need it so much as like I need something to commit myself to. I need something to grow and to build. Like I need a baby. Like I need a baby that I need to just needs to be mine, and I need to throw myself into it and invest myself into something and watch it grow. And
For sure.
I think that this is a pretty good step for me in terms of just my competitive nature of like when I'm feeling down, you know what I like to do? I get on my Peloton. Because it has nothing to do with the actual workout. I'll find a live class or one that's already happened that I can jump into, and I'll just chase the person in front of me. It has nothing to do with like actually feeling great about the workout when I'm done, because it sucks no matter what. But it calms my competitive nature for the time being, because I'm just fucking pumping my legs trying to catch the next person. And the feeling of joy I get when I pass that person, like it's a virtual fuck you as I go by. Like it's not actually real. Like I'm just in the
It's a Gordon Ramsay fuck you.
Yeah, they're in like 20th place and I'm in 21st, and then I'm in fucking 20th and they're in 21st, and I'm just like, thank God they don't know me, because I would be screaming fuck you the whole time. But that's how I am. Like I have to always be chasing something, and that's kind of what this business thing is about. I need something to chase.
So I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
How could that be boring if that's about to be what
and it
your
was
life
so
is?
interesting to me. It was so interesting. Something I always thought would be boring, but it was very interesting. You got one more for me?
I think that you want to do one more?
Let's do one more. Yeah, let's do one more.
Let's see. I mean, we could do another one about your retirement.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. How do you wait, I just completely lost it.
Oh God.
I'm not beating the dumb girl allegations. Holy moly.
No, here we go.
Okay, here we go. How do you envision your emotions on the final walk?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I've thought about that a lot too, about do I want to just take it in and feel it, or do I just need to lock in and then feel it afterwards? I think that the fight week is going to be like bittersweet during the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to be able to, come across my friends and all the people that work at the UFC that have done so much for me. And just be able to just quickly tell them thank you, and not make a big deal of it and get everyone super emotional, but just tell them thank you and that I appreciate them and that they matter, and they made a difference in my life. And I think, you know what, my plan is just to have fun. I'm just going to have fun, and I'm not going to overthink it too much. I had this conversation with one of my main teammates in Omaha. He just fought for the bare knuckle title in Dubai. His name is Carlos Trinidad Snake. And Carlos, me and Blaine were kind of Scotty's main guys, And so because of Scotty's love for them early on in their careers, I've taken Blaine and Carlos kind of under my wing a lot. And because Scotty cared so much about them at the time and wanted me to help them. So that was something that mattered to Scott. So it mattered to me. And then Scott died. And so I've kept them, I've kept them with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to Dubai, and I can't, I'm in camp. I can't go to Dubai. So I kind of felt bad I wasn't able to go with him. But when he gets to the arena, I get a text message from him and from Blaine, and he's just kind of struggling. It's the first time he's fought without Scotty. So obviously I understand it because I just did it. So
of course
I get it. And so he's having a tough time. And I said something. So I called him. He asked if I could talk, and I called him. And I think it was, I think what happens is people are like, man, I can't believe, like you have this huge task in front of you, and this dude that wants to beat the shit out of you, like you think you'd be able to check it, but you just can't. And so I think he expected to be able to check it and couldn't do it. So I call him, and, I can tell he's upset. And I said something to him I wish I would have said to myself leading into my fight. It's not disrespectful to the person you lost to not allow yourself to feel it. I think at times you have to put it on the back burner, and you have to be able to set your baggage at the door and then go through the door and do what you have to do in that room. And then you can pick it back up when you leave. But
sure.
At the time, I felt like me trying to shelf the Scotty stuff was disrespectful to him. That's how I felt. Like, if I don't allow myself to just feel this pain, like he deserves for me to be this upset.
Right. For you to grieve.
Yeah. It's almost like if I don't allow myself to be, if I don't allow it to come in, then I didn't care about him enough. It's how it felt. And I
completely understand.
I know that's untrue. But it's almost like my kid. And I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but like my daughter, when she wrestles, and I'm only using her as an example because it's a one-on-one thing. I try to explain to her, it's okay to lose and let it go, and then we move on. It's not okay to let it fester and let it bother you, and then you go into the next match still mad about the last one, because you only have 20 minutes in between or 30 minutes in between in these tournaments sometimes. Like, you got to let it go if you lose, or even if you win but it didn't go the way you wanted it to. You can't go into the next match still worried about it. So like, I had to teach her it's okay to lose and let it go. We take the lessons and then we move on. And my oldest daughter really struggles with that. Like, she has a tough game in volleyball. She's 13, so she's just kind of an ass anyways, like most 13-year-old girls. But she has a hard time letting it go. She's just mad about it. And she feels like, if I'm not upset about my performance, then I don't care enough. And that's not always true. You have to be able to compartmentalize it and take the lessons and figure out what you did wrong, but you have to be able to let it not affect you moving forward. So I didn't take my own advice going into the Scott thing. I needed to take my loss, but I had to put it aside so that I didn't let it ruin the next thing in front of me, and which is what I did.
Sure.
So I had that same conversation with Carlos, like the conversation I should have with myself. I had with Carlos. I don't know why I was going down this path, though. I just lost my train of thought. There was a reason I was talking about this, though. Oh, the emotions with retirement. Okay, so
yes,
that's where. Sorry, I knew they were connected. So what I don't want to do is let the emotions and the sadness part of my retirement affect the performance, because then it's pointless. then I
Right.
shouldn't do it. I should just retire and go tell those people in person and be sad and then not fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I really want to fight. So I need to just lean into the happiness part of it and the relationships and be happy that it happened, not sad that it's ending right now. And then afterwards we can have the sadness part of it and feel that stuff. So I guess that's the long answer to that question is I just need to be happy when it's appropriate and then just lock in and fight and then deal with it out. And then I can feel the emotions and feel the retirement and celebrate and do all that stuff afterwards, because it doesn't matter win, lose or draw. I'm celebrating because, and this is something that I've pushed back on a little bit, I think at other times, because you never want to celebrate your triumphs because you're going to, I don't know if you guys can hear it. There's in this apartment building,
I was going to say,
there's an apartment building like across the parking lot. The fire alarms have been going on and off for days. It was happening Thursday too. So it's.
I knew it wasn't yours because it wasn't blaring enough, but
no, I was here with my 10-year-old one time, like a year ago, and the alarms went off in this building, and the whole building had to flee out in the parking lot. It was stupid, and there was no real fire. But anyways, I forgot what I was saying. I got distracted by this alarm going off. Forgot what I was saying.
No, just how you're going to lock in for the fight itself. And then let yourself feel what you need to feel afterwards. It's a celebration of your career.
Yeah, it's a celebration, whether I win or I lose, and I'm fully expecting to win. I feel really good. I had a great training session today where I'm really starting to peak. But win or lose, I'm going to celebrate. And something I've never allowed myself to do is to really kind of rest on my accomplishments or look back and be proud. And I've always pushed like you can be proud of something when you've done something to be proud of. That's always been my mindset. And people have always thought I was absolutely crazy for saying that, but that's how I felt. And I'm worth celebrating for like the people that are around me.
You are.
I'm worth celebrating. Like what I've done is worth celebrating. I've worked my fucking ass off my entire adult life. And if it's just this one night or this one weekend or that, going into Sunday and Monday, I'm sure we'll still be celebrating a little bit, but like I deserve it. I've sacrificed everything for this. I way outkicked my coverage. As for as many people that say I suck, I've done a lot of shit for someone who sucks at this. So I've made a lot of money. I've got a lot of doors open for me. I've taken advantage of a lot of opportunities. I've had a lot of cool experiences. I've fought all over the world. And I guess for the first time in my career, I feel worthy of being celebrated. And fucking goddamn it, I'm going to.
That's the best way to end it. I'm really happy you said that. That was such a good. I'm a very emotional person, so like I'm almost gonna cry. But I'm really happy you said that. That was a great answer. Your teammates are very lucky to have you, and all of the advice that you're able to give them based on things that you've done before. And the MMA community, as fucking fickle and horrendous as they can be sometimes, they're lucky to have you too, just in terms of somebody to watch fights, somebody to listen to, break down fights, and just somebody that's around. So
it sure isn't picking them on at the end of these shows, that's for sure.
No, luckily we don't have to do split decision today because y'all lost again. But I will say, little bright spot, because let's end happy. You were the only person of the six of you to pick Alexander Volkanovski. So
yeah, I think here's the deal. Before we get out of here, my breakdowns are always pretty spot on. It's the predictions that fuck me. I can pretty much tell you like what's going to happen or what are likely scenarios that could happen and pop up. It's just the predictions. You never know with these guys. These guys are so fucking good.
Like, yeah, I'm really good in practice. Like, I promise.
I'm fucking really good in the gym.
Awesome.
Damn, call me the Cody Brundage of picking fights.
Stop.
Oh my God, he's gonna be so mad. He's gonna be so mad.
Yeah, that was not nice. Yeah, and he's been nothing but good to the show and you.
For sure.
So.
And he's flying to Kansas City with me he's flying Tuesday just to help me train. Like he doesn't have to be there, but he's gonna be. It's so funny. I'm just giving him shit. Cody, don't be mad at me. I'm just fucking with you. Okay, we got to get out of here. There's a fire alarm going off across the parking lot. I got laundry to do, and I'm going to start packing a little bit, which kind of feels weird. I'm going to start getting my shit all packed up. If you guys haven't, subscribe, share with your friends. To the handful of fans that came up to me and said that they loved the podcast, and then I made them pull their YouTube apps out and show that they weren't subscribed. I appreciate you guys for the new subscriptions. Seriously, guys, if you haven't done it, it's really, really easy. You just go on there, go to the, view our channel, just hit subscribe. It's not like we post a whole shit ton, so we're not going to bother you. We won't bother you, but it helps us out a lot. It really does. It helps the algorithm. And we want to continue to grow this thing. I want to keep doing cool shit on here. So, as always, we appreciate you. This is my last episode from Denver. So, this time next week, I will be back home, getting ready to go to Kansas City the next day. So, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you. We partner with HomaFight Picks to get you the most accurate and well-researched fight predictions. They do all the legwork so you can focus on winning. Picks will be sent directly to your phone via text or email. It's totally up to you. The second we upload them. Use code Lionheart to get 7 free days at winnable.com/HOF picks. That's WINIBLE.com/HOF picks.
Smith.